NHL regular season recap night 84, a whole bunch of games today, the first of which is another pretty entertaining one between the Philadelphia Flyers and Calgary Flames. A pretty high-scoring second period with 2 goals going for each team. A pretty nice one from Jonathan Huberdeau opens the scoring, and then Morgan Frost comes right back, ties it at 1. Weegar and Couturier get the other 2 goals in the second, and then in the third, Travis Konechny with what ends up being the eventual game winner. Both goalies pretty solid in this one. Jacob Markstrom, 39 of 42. Carter Hart, 22 of 24 in the winning effort. It's a very big win for the Flyers, who are looking to hang on to a playoff spot in the Metro. The Avalanche taking on the Panthers, and this one was like a tale of 3 completely different periods. In the first, it's all Florida. Verhaeghe and then 2 goals from Sam Reinhart makes it 3-0 early on Ivan Prosvetov and the Avs. In the second, though, the coin gets flipped. It's Makar, Manson, and Nichushkin that tie the game at 3 before Oliver Ekman-Larsson adds one 8:50 in to make it 4-3 for the Cats. Again, all these goals in the first 8:50 of the period, including Makar's just 21 seconds in. In the third period, another wild one. Jonathan Drouin ties it up just 3.5 minutes in, and then from there, once again, all Panthers. Reinhart completes the hat-trick effort, and then Kevin Stanlin, Matthew Tkachuk, and Carter Verhaeghe all score, making it an 8-4 final in favor of the Florida Panthers. Alex Georgiev, who came in relief, not great, stopping 12 of 15. Bobrovsky also not fantastic, 22 of 26, and of course Prosvetov gives up 5 goals relatively early on here. So not the best game for, 4 goals. Not the best game for any of the goalies involved. A great game offensively for both teams, but especially for the Panthers and for Sam Reinhart, who's now up to 28 goals on the year, and 8-4 victory. This one was a big one. The Sabres taking on the Penguins. Both of these teams coming off of pretty big wins earlier in the week. The Penguins, of course, in that barn burner against the Bruins, and the Sabres taking care pretty easily of the Montreal Canadiens. But in this one, the Sabres win by a final score of 3-1, which is pretty surprising, I guess, because I was listening to a podcast called The Ice Guys earlier today, and apparently after a win, the Sabres are 1-14-0, at least up to today on the season, in games following wins. But they make it 2 wins after the first win on the year in this one. Alex Tuck with a goal in the first, and the rest of the goals come in the third. Ricard Raquel off a beautiful backdoor feed from Erik Karlsson, and then Zemgus Girgensons with about 5 minutes to play makes it 2-1. 3 minutes following that, Rasmus Dahlin makes it 3-1, and that's where the score sticks. Both goalies really good. UPL goes 40 for 41. Tristan Jarry 29 for 32 in the losing effort. The Bruins taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning in a pretty big Atlantic Division matchup, and the Bruins took care of business in this one. It was pretty back and forth, at least for the first 2 periods, but in the third period especially, the Bruins kind of extended their lead and made it, doubtless. In the first, Braden Point scores just 21 seconds in, followed by goals from Trent Frederick and Charlie McAvoy. In the second, Frederick gets his second, followed by Kucherov, Pastrnak, and Point. The Braden Point goal off of a ridiculous play from Nikita Kucherov. And then in the third is where the Bruins really open things up. Morgan Geekie, Jake DeBrusk, and then Charlie Coyle. It's a 7-3 final in favor of the Bees. Andrei Vasilevsky was not great in this one. He stops just 20 of 26. Linus Ullmark, 23 of 26. Not a lot of shots in this game, but plenty of goals, clearly. It's a 7-3 win for the Bruins. The Leafs taking on the San Jose Sharks, and despite the call-up of Dennis Hildeby, he does not play any of the games on this California road trip. Martin Jones gets the start in this one against his former team, and has another really good game. He goes 23 for 24, Blackwood 29 for 33 in the losing effort. It's a 4-1 final in favor of Montreal, and Leafs fans are probably kicking themselves with the contract rumors coming from William Nylander, because he has a 3-point night in this one, 2 goals and an assist in the winning effort. The other goals here from Marner and Calle Jarnkrok in the first and second period, respectively. Mikael Granlund with the lone goal for the Sharks. It's a win the Leafs should have pretty much all day long. Not really too much else to cover in this game. It's a big win for Toronto as they continue to look to climb into first in the Atlantic. The Rangers visiting the Montreal Canadiens, and this one was kind of a wild one. The Habs looked really good early. Brendan Gallagher opens the scoring in the first from Evans and Savard, and then in the second, Sean Monahan and Yoel Armia with their 10th and 6th of the season, respectively. But then the table kind of flips on the Habs. Vinny Trocheck and Artemi Panarin both score before the end of the second period, making it 3-2. And about 9 minutes into the third, Adam Fox from VC and Will Cooley tie the game at 3. We head to overtime where nothing goes, and in the shootout, it's Cole Caulfield with the only goal. Suzuki, Panarin, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, and Ylonen all stopped. So it's a win, barely, for the Montreal Canadiens. Sam Montembeault really good in this one. 45 of 48. He got peppered by the Rangers. Jonathan Quick, 27 of 30, just not quite good enough in the shootout for the win. It's a big 4-3 shootout victory for the Habs. The Vancouver Canucks visiting the New Jersey Devils, and this one ended up being a pretty crazy one also. No goals in the first. Nico Dawes was unbelievable. He stopped 17 of 17 Vancouver shots, while Demko had to face and stop just 5. But in the second and third, the scoring just explodes. In the second, Pettersson, 2 from Miller, 1 from Colin Miller. Eric Holla and Connor Garland makes it 4-2 Vancouver after 2. In the third, Elias Pettersson extends that lead to 5-2 before Colin Miller gets his second and Brendan Smith gets his second of the season, making it a 5-4 game. Dakota Joshua eventually gets the empty netter, redeeming himself for a penalty he took late in the third, and the Canucks kind of limp away from this one with a 6-4 victory. A wildly entertaining game once again. Neither goalie great, of course, with 10 goals between the two teams. Demko just 21 of 25. Nico Dawes, who actually looked pretty good for most of this game, stopping 36 of 41 in the losing effort. The Minnesota Wild visiting the Columbus Blue Jackets, and this was another wildly entertaining back-and-forth game. Cole Sillinger with the first goal of each of the 3 periods, so a hat trick for him. Tate McRae is in shambles, but the Minnesota Wild come back and tie the game after each of those Sillinger goals. Matt Boldy gets 2 of those in the first and second period, respectively, and then in the third, Marcus Johansson ties the game with just a minute and a half to play. We head to overtime where Marco Rossi, scores about 3 minutes in to seal the deal. Marc-Andre Fleury tying Patrick Waugh's record for wins in the NHL. We'll see if he can end up beating that record. We got a ways to go in the season, so I'm sure he's going to get there. But it's a big 4-3 overtime win for the Wild, who are in need of one desperately considering the way the rest of the Central Division is going. The Blues taking on the Carolina Hurricanes in a bit of a surprisingly low-scoring affair. The only goals come from Nathan Walker and Teuvo Teravainen, at least in regulation. Nothing in the second period, nothing in the third period. We head all the way to the shootout where it takes until round 4 before we see a goal where both Jake Neighbors and Sebastian Aho score. In round 5, Braden Shen scores. Jordan Martinook, I'm not sure why he got thrown out in the shootout, but he gets stopped by Jordan Binnington, so it's a 2-1 shootout victory for the Blues, who, again, much like the Wild, are looking to climb up the Central Division standings. Meanwhile, Carolina, looking to make headway on the Rangers, are unable to come up with a win in this one, much like the Rangers were. Both goalies pretty solid. It's a nice little low-shot goalie duel. Jordan Binnington, 29 of 30. Antti Ranta, who was good to see have a good game, stops 21 of 22 and, of course, picks up the victory in the shootout. The Predators taking on the Dallas Stars, and goals came in twos in this game. In the first, it's Gus Nyquist with the only one in the first, before Luke Evangelista makes it 2-0 Preds in the second. But then Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn score 2 for Dallas, tying the game at 2 before we wrap up the second period. In the third go, 2 more goals from Philip Forsberg make it 4-2 in favor of the Preds. Jason Robertson scores just the last goal for Dallas, so it's the last goal without a pair, but it's a 4-3 victory in favor of the Preds. Neither goalie is very good in this one. Lankinen, 26 of 29. In the winning effort, he does enough, but Scott Wedgwood, just 18 of 22. It's starting to become a bit of an issue for Dallas not having Jake Onger. This is a couple games in a row where Scott Wedgwood hasn't looked great. Nonetheless, not overly concerned about Dallas. A big win for the Preds, 4-3 in regulation. The Edmonton Oilers taking on the Ottawa Senators in a surprisingly low-scoring game in which Zach Hyman scores all 3 goals for Edmonton. Parker Kelly with the lone goal for the Sens. In net for the Oilers, it's Stuart Skinner stopping 29 of 30. Anton Forsberg for Ottawa stopping 43 of 46. Both of these guys very, very good tonight. Again, pretty surprising that it's a game this low-scoring between these two teams in particular, but Edmonton gets the win in a kind of, expected fashion, maybe a bit more high-scoring, but you expect them to get the victory in this one, and they do so 3-1. Final game of the night, the Golden Knights taking on the New York Islanders, and the Golden Knights took care of business in this one. Ilya Sorokin, not his best night, 24 of 29. Logan Thompson, meanwhile, goes 28 for 30 in a pretty good showing. In the first, it's Jack Eichel and Matt Barzal. In the second, Pavel Dorofeyev and Nick Waugh, and then Eichel and Waugh with another 2 in the third, sandwiched between a Matt Martin goal, just his second of the year. It's a 5-2 final in favor of Vegas. One, again, that you'd probably expect them to win the way that they've been playing lately. The Islanders put up a good fight. Shots in this one were 30-29, so almost deadlocked, but Vegas just the better team in this one, and they get the victories. That's going to be it for NHL regular season recap night 84. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Just 4 games, all of them pretty mid on night 85.